Hello, YouTube. It's your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, coming at you again with another YouTube video. And the title of this video is called Non Select Passport Bros. You're too short, or too ugly, or too broke to attract women overseas. And the way this video came about was recently there was a video on Brazil Yesh's channel, and shout out to Brazil Yesh, in which there was this older woman. Talking about the Passport Bros and how she's pretty much disgusted with so many Passport Bros videos. And she was saying that we keep talking about that we're leaving, but we're not leaving. Pretty much trying to say that we're broke. And then also just, she pretty much was cussing up a storm as well. Lots of different curses words, very unladylike, and just going off on the Passport Bros and just telling us to leave. Nobody wants us, and that kind of thing. And so it brought me back to thinking about the whole. There was an old conversation that was about non-select men, select men in the states, and that kind of thing. So I wanted to go a little bit more in detail about this whole situation and encourage some of the um, guys in the states or in the West or in UK, Canada, that kind of thing, and just kind of talk about you know how pretty much we're valued overseas. Men in general have high value and are pretty much select once they go overseas. So I kind of want to discuss that and uh, discuss some reasons why, and just encourage you guys and pretty much go in detail on why dating in the West is pretty much dead, and why, for the most part, overall, you become very select once you go to the countries outside of the U.S., especially in countries such as Colombia, Brazil, the DR, Peru, the Philippines, Thailand. Um, you know, to the few that want to go to Indonesia, Thailand, South Africa, Ukraine, these countries, and so forth. So let me start off by saying this. Um, in many cases in the United States, one of the things that whenever I watch Fresh and Fit's podcast, a lot of women on there would say things like, "I will only date a guy who's six feet tall." In some cases, 6 feet is not enough. They want to be like 6'2", 6'3", that kind of thing. Myself, I'm 5'8". Now, back in the States, I did fairly well with with women and that kind of thing, and um there were some women that I believe, either passed over me because I was too short for them, or some cases there sometimes I would see women who are like 5'11", that kind of thing. They'd be attractive, but because of the difference in our height, I would be like, I pretty much wouldn't approach a lot of them because I kind of figured overall that they kind of want a guy that's taller than them, which kind of sucks for them because I believe only about 15% of men are 6 feet taller, 6 feet, 6 feet or taller for the most part. So that kind of puts a lot of those women in a position where they're gonna have a hard time finding mates. And so, and then what's so strange is that you actually will find women who are like 4'11", 5'1", saying things like they only want to date men who are like 6'1", 6'2". So in that case, it puts men like myself or other men who are even shorter in a predicament where you might not have as many options, or you might not have as many women checking for you. And in spite of the fact that you might be, attractive, or maybe you're well off as far as financially, maybe you got like a STEM degree, that kind of thing. Currently right now I work more in the IT space. As far as looks, I would say I'm fairly attractive. I do decently. Um, so I say all this, that in spite of those, factors of maybe somewhat being attractive or somewhat um being well off financially, when it comes to the height factor, this is what I would say to most guys. Let's say that you are under the average height. Average height in the United States is about 5'10". I would fall in that category as being a little bit under average height. So this is what I would say to all my passport bros out there. If you are under average height, um, I'm going to display some countries where you can go, where you definitely will be above average height. You won't have any issues with height, and some of those countries are Peru, Guatemala, the Philippines, Cambodia. And in fact, in Guatemala, the average height of a female there is only about 4'11", 4'11", and the men there are not that tall. I believe they're only about maybe like 5'4", 5'5", something like that. I have to look again at the notes, but yeah, women there are only about 4'11". If you're willing to go to Southeast Asia to Cambodia or the Philippines, women there are only about 5'1". If you're willing to go to Peru, which is even like for a lot of guys in the states, it's easy for us because we have Peru is not that far away. Versus if you go to the Philippines or Cambodia, um, the tickets are a little bit more expensive and it's a little bit more of a distance. A lot of people don't necessarily want to take that plane ride. It's about you're gonna spend about like a day traveling or so. So if you don't want to make the trip or it's a little bit expensive, you can always go to Peru or even Guatemala. Now, I would recommend Peru over Guatemala only because uh, Guatemala, the crime there to some degree is a little bit rough in comparison to Peru. Some people would even list it as being a little bit more dangerous, though each country has its own issues. I mean, South America in general, you gotta move smart. You gotta keep your street smarts up. So I would definitely recommend for a first trip, if you have never been traveling to South America, to definitely hit Peru over Guatemala. In addition to that, the women outnumber men in Peru. You can actually look this up. In many cases, a lot of times people would say in all countries women outnumber men, but here's the difference. Uh, from ages 18 to 30, the women actually outnumber men in Peru. You can actually look this up. Versus the other countries, yes, the women outnumber the men, but that only happens once you get up into like the 40-year-old range. Between 18 and 40, the ratio of men and women are approximately about the same. Now there are some exceptions. For example, as I said before, Peru from 18 to 30, there's an imbalance in which there are actually more women than men. Also in countries like Russia, there are actually more women than men there. There's a few other little small countries as well, but for the most part, in most countries, from 18 to about 30, and sometimes 18 to 40, it's almost about the same. So Peru will give you the benefit of not only are the women shorter there, as I said before, 5'1", but in addition to that, the women actually outnumber the men there. So in this case, your height won't be a factor. You can finally have huge options now because now we got that out of the way, so you ain't got to worry about that. um and in general, like I said, Cambodia, Philippines, Guatemala, and Peru, definitely if you're a passport bro on the shorter end of the stick, then you definitely should check out these countries, as I believe that your height will definitely not be a factor in these countries. And you will have lots of opportunities, lots of options. And I'm not saying that. And here's the thing: don't limit yourself just to these countries, because me myself being more on the shorter side, I've been to countries where the women are even taller. For example, Ukraine, the women there tend to be more on the taller side for women. I have to look at the numbers again. I believe they're like around, let's say, like 5'6", that kind of thing. I'm 5'8". I've had no issue when I went there. I was able to go to clubs there and date some women. I had no issue there. Even let me think of some other countries. Colombia, they're not exceptionally tall. I believe it's around like maybe like 5'4", something like that. So I'm 5'8". Had no issue there as well. Same thing in Brazil. So I'm not saying limit yourself to these countries, but I just wanted to highlight in this video that for the shorter guys, if you're worried about your height or that kind of thing, or wondering if that's going to be an issue as far as you dating women, it's definitely not going to be an issue. And really, any of the countries that a lot of passport bros talk about, from Brazil to Panama to Ukraine to South Africa, your height is not going to be an issue. And I'm going to continue in this video and tell you why women definitely be checking for you more, just for the fact that besides the physical factor, you most passport bros that traveling, including yourself, you have some type of money, or if anything else, you at least have your finances in order enough where you can kind of take care of another person, and you definitely are going to be needed there. And in this video, you're gonna see some more reasons why. But either way, if you're very conscious about your height, definitely check out Peru, Guatemala, Cambodia, and the Philippines. Women there are not very tall. The men there are not very tall. You fit in perfectly well. You'll be welcomed with open arms, because not only are you taller than majority of the women there, but you also are a passport bro, which means for the most part you're well off. You're somewhat well off financially, and then also and then also on the other end, if you're in somewhat in shape, maybe you're not in shape, whatever. Like it's always an added plus. Not that it's needed, but I just want to say that going off. So to any of the man hating videos about short men, that kind of thing. I even saw one video talking. It was even one comment a woman made one time trying to say that short men who are cute are a waste of time, that kind of thing. And my rebuttal with that would be, that's not what the Guatemalan women are saying. That's not what the Filipinos are saying. That's not even what the Ukrainian women or Eastern European women are saying. Is really not an issue once you step out of states. It's only in United States where women are really focused on height and that kind of thing. Again, not saying, because I do understand there's a biological urge within women to want to be protected and that kind of thing. So I'm not saying that it does not help. What I'm saying is that it's not necessarily needed. It's not going to be something that's going to cause you to be unsuccessful. So let me just say that. Let me put it that way. So I wanted to debunk that. I wanted to talk to that one piece of the non-select that sometimes women try to hold against men. So that's removed. So don't worry about that. So next piece is women who want to critique passport bros on um us being, like, let's say, broke and that kind of thing. So here's the other piece of the puzzle. So um in many of these countries, and I'm going to display it as well, there's like high poverty, high unemployment. And in many cases, the guys there, even though they may want to settle down with a woman and that kind of thing, and take care of somebody's daughter and that kind of thing, they really don't have the finances to do so, or at least do it, very well. And keep in mind that the women, that there's marriages every year in these countries, and these men, in general, these are not wealthy men for the most part. As I stated before, in Colombia, 55% of the money generated comes from only about 20% of the people. The other percentage of the people are, at most, on average, they're only making about maybe like $500 a month. Um, which is, and in many cases, you need a significant other to kind of survive, to get like your needs met, throughout the day. And when I was looking at the stats, a good portion, about 30% of the people there, are living in poverty. In Peru, 50% of the people are living in poverty, and of that 50%, I believe it's about 20 to 30% of people there live on less than $5 a day. So, and what I'm saying is, even within that economic structure, women are still getting married to men, and these men, they're cooking for these men, they submit to these men, they're having babies with these men. So, and what they tend to do is, where in these countries, they don't have the finances that we have in the States, they tend to invest in other things of substance. So whereas in the United States, materialism is really, really huge, but in these other states, where they don't really have the luxury to kind of indulge in luxuries and that kind of thing. Instead, they invest in people, which means family and friends are very, very important. And in many cases, since you being a passport bro, coming from countries where people are somewhat well off, when you come into these countries, a lot of the men there are happy for you to come and marry their daughters, to bring them out of their situation. In many cases, to you can kind of help them with you kind of help bring a better life for the most part. I'm gonna put it that way. You're there, you're taking care of the women. Some of you guys, me, myself, I like to, when I, with like my girlfriend, I like to take her out to nice places, care for her and that kind of thing. And of course, her family is very approving of that. They're looking for us to, finally tie the knot, that kind of thing. So when you come there, you're going to be open with open arms. And I believe Big Truck Reviews, he had also mentioned this as well, where there are even countries now, because their population is not replacing themselves. They're actually, in some cases, will actually give people financial incentive to actually come there and buy houses and that kind of thing. Shout out to Big Truck. But yeah. So and what I'm trying to say is, the women there, like, because of the situation there, and this is what Dennis Sperlin has said. And shout out to Dennis Sperlin. He made this very good point. He said that he said um only in the West do the women have uh the luxury of being extra picky with men, and only choose a man based upon them being pretty or rich, or that kind of thing, or being having to be 6 feet tall with a six pack and that kind of thing. Only in the West are they allowed, only in the West, where they can indulge in these luxuries, um, can women be this picky? But however, in other countries, productive men are pretty much the prize over men who are just, pretty or have like a good look or status or something like that. So overall, what he was pretty much was trying to say, and I kind of paraphrase what he said, but pretty much what he was trying to say is that in other countries outside of the United States, being productive is prized over just being, a pretty much being like a pretty boy, or that kind of thing. They're more focused on the women. They are more focused on finding a guy that's very productive, and also here's some things I'm going to give you as well. So if you're looking to become a passport bro, and you want to, and let's say that you right now, you currently let's say you work at, I don't know, for whatever reason, you're a guy listening to this video, you work at McDonald's right now, you're only making about, let's say you're like a manager, you're only making about $30,000 a year. You'll be surprised how strong your dollar is in countries such as Colombia. Right now, $1 is worth about close about 5,000 Colombian pesos. I believe when I was in Thailand, and it may be a little bit even stronger now. I believe I was able to get about 1,000 baht for about, like, I think like $30. Um, it's kind of hard to describe the difference as far as like goods and that kind of thing. But what I'm saying is that you can get like luxury hotels in Thailand for like $30, that kind of thing. Versus in the States, those same hotels for those type of views, you're paying at least almost like $200 a night. That kind of thing, just to show you a difference in how your dollar goes. So when you're there, what I'm saying is, even on your $30,000 salary, you can live like a king in countries such as the Philippines, Thailand, Brazil, Colombia, the DR, that kind of thing. And so what I would say is, if you're a guy who wants to become a passport bro, or even to the passport bros that maybe you don't have, like, right now you're looking for a way where you can kind of travel and meet women and live abroad. Few jobs that I would definitely recommend. So there's two job sites that I would recommend that you all use. There's Indeed.com, Indeed, INDEED.com, and there's also LinkedIn. If you go into LinkedIn, LINKED, I believe it's it, LINKEDIN, LinkedIn.com, and you go into the search bar and you put in customer service representative. It'll probably pull up about almost like 25,000 jobs. And if you all you got to do is click on remote, and you can start finding remote jobs. With that remote job, you're now making, let's say, like, even with that remote job, you're making like $30,000, $40,000 a year. Now in the States, that's not really anything. You're barely getting by. But for example, if you go to Colombia, where you can get a decent hotel, a decent apartment for like $200, $300 in a decent neighborhood, with that $300, I mean, you still have money hand over fist. You still can go out and party. You can still go out, meet women. Um, you can still get around, transportation, Uber, that kind of thing. And what I'm trying to say to you is, you can use. There are plenty of remote jobs right now. I believe BMT actually has on his channel. He has a link to a bunch of remote jobs that you can do overseas, where you'll be making money hand over fist based upon the economies that you go to there. Also, I'm also going to display as well some English teaching classes. You can actually go overseas to some of these countries. They're actually looking for people from the West, from Canada, from the UK, from the United States. From, like, Australia. They're looking for plenty of English speakers to go to their countries, actually stay there, and they'll actually pay for your apartment. You'll get, like, obviously you get like a monthly salary. You'll get vacation time. Um, and pretty much, I believe you can. You're only teaching English maybe about a couple hours per day, and you can actually live abroad, and it's like recurring. You can live in there's several different countries that are looking for English teachers. There's even I believe, if you were to type in teach English abroad um remotely, I believe there was a company in China where you could actually, from the United States, for only about like 2 hours a day. 2 hours a day, I believe it's like 5 days a week. You can teach English to students in China. You'll get paid for it. I believe you were getting paid for those 2 hours, 5 days a week. I believe it was about, let's just say, anywhere from like $1,500 to $2,000 a month. and you can work remotely. You can work remotely, which means to all you that want to travel to like maybe the DR or the Philippines, or maybe you want to go to South Africa, you can definitely take these kind of jobs, these English teaching jobs, go live overseas, get to see, get a feeling of how it is living abroad, away from the matrix, away from all the man hating culture in America, and you can finally get a fresh breath of air living in another country, and and just get to experience what it's like being a passport bro. So and especially to a lot of my minority passport bro brothers, whether you're black, Hispanic, or whatever your background is, if you've been discriminated against, with these type of jobs, you now will have an opportunity to escape a lot of that and finally get a breath of fresh air, being in a country where you're able to live very, very well. Like I said, as I said before, our dollar is very, very strong in these countries. So that addresses the aspect of non-select when they talk about us being broke. So don't worry about don't listen to all these naysayers online saying you guys are too broke to date women overseas or to date foreign women, and or to date decent women in general. You'll be surprised. Like I said, $30,000 a year salary goes extremely far overseas. So that gets rid of the non-select because they're trying to say that you're broke. And we also address the non-select because you don't have the height. So what's the other aspect? What was the other thing I wanted to address? Also, them saying that you're like, like unattractive and that kind of thing as well. Now again, we had three recent YouTubers that passed away in their 50s. RP to Kevin Samuels, ARC, Alan Roger Curry, and then also David Carroll. All these were like huge YouTubers that I used to watch, and they all passed away in their 50s. So what I'm saying to you is, I definitely would say that I would encourage all of you, to definitely, take care of your health. Work out, try to work out every day. Well, at least maybe like 5 days a week if possible. Me myself, I also have been more conscious about my health because I would like to, live as I would like to extend my life as long as I can. So I say to say this: while health isn't important, it's not really it's not a deal breaker like overseas. And I say that to say this: as far as like attractiveness, keep in mind that in places like the Philippines or Thailand, you will see older men, sometimes with the turkey neck, sometimes with the skin hanging, sagging, that kind of thing. And these same men, they're in their 70s and they're dating women in their 30s, some even in their 20s, dating some in their 40s, with these huge age gaps. And the reason for that in countries in Southeast Asia, as I said, but as Dennis Perlin was saying, productive men are winning in these countries. You'll be surprised if you are a productive man, regardless of your looks, but you're very productive, you have a good heart. There are some women there right now in Thailand, right now in the Philippines, right now in the DR that would definitely like to meet you and date you. Don't let these women try to downplay you or say that, because a lot of times we try to say that, which is true, that men age like wine, which is true. But I have seen some female haters who have penis envy, and they're upset because they hit the wall. So they try to trash men and try to say that as you get older, women are going to want you. And they also try to talk down to a lot of men, because they're not used to, especially men who are out of shape or men who are unattractive. They're not used to these men standing up to them and not allowing them to walk all over them. They just expect because maybe you're out of shape, you're unattractive, you're old, that you should just get scraps and you should be happy whatever you get. You should be happy to marry up a woman with 3 kids by 3 different men who's out of shape. And we're just saying no to all this. Like I'm here to tell you, you have options overseas. You are a productive man from the West, and you are the prize in many of these countries. So what I'm saying is, if you're worried about, because I know a lot of times you might look at some of the YouTubers such as like One Master Teacher, Austin Holloman, Pablo Frescobar. You might look at some of these men and say, well, these guys look kind of like, and I'm not, and no homo when I say this, but you could kind of look at a guy and say, you could look at him and say, he looks like somebody that gets a lot of women if he was in the States, that kind of thing. So when you see them overseas getting women, you may say to yourself, it's only because they're handsome or they're tall or something like that. And I'm not here to tell you that's just, it put it this way. it does help. I'm not gonna say that. So I'm not gonna say that their attractiveness does not help them. Just like I said, like I talk about myself. I would consider myself, not to toot my own horn, to be somewhat fairly attractive. So I'm not saying that looking good or being handsome does not work to your favor. But to me, it's just the icing on the cake. What I'm saying is me, myself, Austin Holloman, Pablo Frescobar, um, one master teacher, even if we didn't have looks, what I'm saying is we went overseas, we still would do very, very well because we all of us are very productive in the States. We have decent jobs. For example, Austin Holloman, he has a skill he can have for the rest of his life. He can even work overseas with that same skill, still make money because we're productive in the States. We have decent jobs. This has allowed us to be able to travel, meet women of different cultures, and even without our looks, you can still go overseas and you're 50, 60, 70, even without being very handsome, still date women who are in their 20s, 30s and look very, very beautiful, very, um very feminine, in shape, as Kevin Samuels would say, fit, friendly, and fit, friendly, and feminine. You can still date these type of women. As I said before, I even without me knowing you, I know you don't have a turkey. Most of you don't have a turkey neck. Most of you don't have wrinkled skin. But even if you do, or even if you're a guy who's like slightly overweight, that kind of thing, as Dennis Sperling has stated, once you leave United States, productive men are the prize. Women over there, because as I had listed earlier in this video, when I talked about the poverty rates in these countries, these men and these women will be happy for you to come there, wife up their daughters, and provide for them a better life than they would have in their own country being done by their own men. Not to say that they only want your money. I'm not saying that, but that's also be realistic when we talk about women in general, whether they're in the United States, whether they're in UK, whether they're in Canada, whether they're in Thailand. To some degree, your finances is important to any relationship. Lots of relationships have been ended because one partner wasn't because finances cause a lot of fighting and that kind of thing. So finances are important. So let's not pretend that women in general are looking for the fry cook or the guy who's just like, barely getting by or whatever. So, but what I am saying is that by you coming from the West, the fact that you're able to travel, that already tells me that you already have your finances somewhat in order. And in any case, regardless if you make $30,000 a year or $100,000 a year, the fact that you're able to travel, you have your finances in order, I can assure you, you're doing a whole lot better than a lot of the men in these states, in these other countries where women are dating and marrying these men. So they will be gladly happy to come and be your wife and to cook for you every day, have children with you, and build a family with you. So that kills the whole third portion of non-select, which is maybe some women, like, there's a lot of women trying to say that we're unattractive, we don't get women in the States, that kind of thing. My response to that is, even if you are a guy in the States who's not attractive, even an incel, so forth, when you go to these other countries, put it this way, you won't be an incel anymore. I'll put it that way. You won't be considered unattractive anymore. You would definitely, so to end this, regardless if you feel that women in the States are trying to say you too broke to date them, you don't make $200,000 a year, or they're trying to say that you're out of shape, you're not unattractive, or they're trying to say that you're not tall enough for them, you're not 6 feet tall. Regardless of whatever they're saying, I'm saying this to you: once you leave the state, you go from being non-select to being select. Even if you are select in the States, or your guy has done fairly well, you about to have your pick of the litter, because whatever you had that made you somewhat select, you're about to have, that's just the icing on the cake. You're gonna go a whole lot further. If you're a guy in the States that didn't get any women, you're about to start getting women. So I don't want to keep this video too long, but I'm just gonna say this. So I encourage you all to go out and travel, and please leave, please leave comments. Please hit the notification bell. Subscribe to my channel if you have not. Hopefully I've won your subscription. Hit the thumbs up, the notification bell. And until next time, this is your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, signing off.